Hey everyone, and welcome to today's explainer. So think about the tallest skyscraper or the most complex bridge you've ever seen. What actually makes them stand tall, without just collapsing into a pile of rubble? Well, it's their internal steel scaffolding. And guess what? You have your very own living, breathing scaffolding inside of you right now. It's your skeletal system. Today, we are going to explore this absolutely incredible architectural blueprint of the human body. It's this ultimate framework that gives us our shape, supports our weight, completely protects our most vital internal organs, and lets us actually move through the world.
All right, here's our game plan for today. We'll start with 1, the body's framework. Then look at 2, endo versus exo. After that, we'll dive into 3, categorizing our bones. 4, building the backbone. And 5, fastening the system. Finally, we'll wrap things up with 6, a skeleton pop quiz.
Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1, the body's framework.
Fundamentally, your skeleton is a framework made mostly out of bones and cartilage. And let's be real, without it, you wouldn't even be able to sit up right now. You'd basically just be a puddle on the floor. It gives your body its physical shape. 206. That is the magic number. That's exactly how many distinct bones make up the structural support inside an adult human body. But here's a kind of mind-blowing fact. You actually had way more bones in your body on the day you were born than you do right this second. It's true. As we grow up, some of those smaller infant bones eventually fuse together to form the 206 stronger, larger bones of the adult framework.
Moving right along to Section 2, endo versus exo. So not all creatures build their biological scaffolding the exact same way we do. Let's break down the difference between an endoskeleton and an exoskeleton. First up, the endoskeleton. The prefix endo literally means internal or inside. So this is an internal framework that's totally covered by muscles and skin. It's the type of skeleton humans and other vertebrates rock. Now contrast that with an exoskeleton. The prefix exo means outside. This is a rigid outer shell that supports and protects the body from the exterior. Think about a crab scurrying on the beach, an insect on the sidewalk, or a snail carrying its shell. They basically wear their armor on the outside, while we keep ours safely hidden on the inside.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 3, categorizing our bones.
Because your internal framework is constantly multitasking, doing everything from walking to writing to shielding your brain, your bones come in a whole bunch of different shapes and sizes. First, we have the long bones. These are your heavy lifters when it comes to major movements. Let's actually map these out on your own body. You've got your femur, which is your thigh bone. It's actually the longest and strongest bone in your entire body. Moving up to your arms, your upper arm bone is called the humerus. Right below your elbow, you have 2 lower arm bones, the ulna and the radius. And back down to your legs, below the knee, you've got the tibia and the fibula. For biology, it's super important to notice the difference between the everyday names we use, like thigh bone, and the proper anatomical labels, like femur. Now go ahead and literally wiggle your fingers and toes for a second. Right now, you are using your small bones. The very tips of your digits are made up of these tiny bones called phalanges. Now rotate your wrists. You're maneuvering 8 small wrist bones called carpals, which are neatly stacked in 2 rows of 4. Down in your ankles, you have 7 similar bones called tarsals. And to bridge the gap between your wrists and those fingers, you have connecting bones called metacarpals. Down in your feet, you've got metatarsals connecting your ankles to your toes. It is just a brilliantly precise system of small parts working together.
All right, let's look at Section 4, building the backbone.
Remember earlier when I mentioned that humans have an endoskeleton just like other vertebrates? Well, what actually makes a vertebrate a vertebrate? It's all about the backbone. The thing is, your backbone isn't just one giant stiff rod. It's a whole series of small individual bones stacked together, and each one of those is called a vertebra. It starts right up under your skull with the cervical vertebrae. Those are your neck bones. Moving down, we hit the thoracic vertebrae, sitting right behind your chest. And finally, down at your lower back, we have the lumbar vertebrae, curving all the way down. Because we possess this amazing stacked column, we're classified as vertebrates. Animals without backbones, like those crabs and insects we talked about, are invertebrates.
Moving on to Section 5, fastening the system.
So we've covered the structural beams, the big bones, the small ones, and the backbone. But honestly, if we just had a pile of bones, we still couldn't do much. How does this biological machine actually stay fastened together and remain flexible? Well, it all starts with joints. A joint is simply the area where two bones meet. Think of your elbows, your knees, or your knuckles. If our skeleton was totally solid, we'd be frozen in place like a statue. Joints are those absolutely vital meeting points that give our rigid framework the ability to bend, twist, and walk.
But think about it. What would happen if two hard bones just constantly rubbed against each other at those joints? Ouch, right? It would cause an immense amount of friction and damage. That is exactly where cartilage comes into play. Cartilage is a really strong, flexible tissue sitting right at the joints. You can think of it as your body's built-in shock absorber. Whenever you jump up and down, that cartilage cushions the impact so your bones don't just grind together.
Okay, so what keeps those two bones from just drifting completely apart at the joint? We need fasteners. First up, ligaments. Ligaments are tough bands of tissue that connect bones directly to other bones. Picture them as heavy-duty internal rubber bands, tightly lashing one bone to another, keeping your joints nice and stable.
But to actually move those bones, your muscles have to get involved. And for that, we rely on tendons. While ligaments connect bone to bone, tendons are the cords that connect your muscles to your bones. Visualize tendons as thick biological cords. When your muscle contracts, it pulls on that tendon cord, which then yanks on the bone, and boom, your arm or leg moves. So keep that straight. Ligaments are the rubber bands connecting bone to bone, and tendons are the cords pulling muscle to bone. And finally, Section 6, Skeleton Pop Quiz.
All right, we've covered a ton of ground today. Let's see what stuck with a really quick, interactive pop quiz to lock in this knowledge. Question number 1. Think back to the very beginning of this explainer. What type of skeleton does a crab or an insect have? Try to recall that comparative anatomy we looked at. I'll give you a second. Got your answer? It is an exoskeleton. Remember, the prefix exo means outside. Insects and crabs have that rigid outer shell to protect themselves, totally contrasting with the internal endoskeleton that humans have. Nice job if you nailed that one.
Okay, question number 2. Think about how our whole body is fastened together. What do we call the biological cords that connect our muscles to our bones, which actually allows us to move? Drum roll, they are tendons. Remember that crucial distinction we made. Ligaments are the bands linking bone to bone, but tendons are the essential cords that let your muscles pull on the skeletal framework.
And that brings us to the end of today's explainer. You literally have 206 internal bones perfectly fastened together with joints, cartilage, ligaments, and tendons, all combining to create the ultimate endoskeleton. It is a total marvel of natural engineering that lets you interact with the world around you. So I'm going to leave you with this one thought. With this incredible biological machine at your complete disposal, how are you going to use it today? Keep studying, keep moving, and most importantly, keep exploring the fascinating world of biology. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
If you have learned something great today, please click in the subscribe button. Like, share to others. Thank you.